My family and friends call me Simon. But today, you will get to meet the Honorable and Simon in perspective and in reality. A lot of times when we talk about minority, the first impressions we have is numbers, tribe, religion, or all forms of human constructs. But somewhere in South Africa, we had a group of the black majority that was led by a few minority. Today, I would want to unbox our thinking about what minority and what majority actually means. Humans can have their definitions, but you define yourself. We'll look at three expositions. First, self-image, which you can call self-identity. And then second, cultural identity. And the last of it, leadership excellence. I am one person who has struggled with identity for a long time until I took a decision. That goes to share that when I was in primary 2 at Federal Polytechnic Staff School, Bauchi, second term precisely, on the day we closed, and everybody was given his report card to take home. I had a seatmate, his name is Hassan Isa, and he asked, "Simon, what position did you take?" And I said, "I don't know." He said, "Let me see your report card." He took it, he opened, and he said, "La, Simon, you are the last in the class. 42 out of 42. Fast forward, in my primary 5, I was selected among those who would go for a science quiz and exhibition. And I was asked to share about how the rain gauge works. I started well, first and second presentation. On our final presentation before the quiz, I began my presentation and I froze. Fast forward. In my SS2 at Federal Government College, Azare, I was the most celebrated and the most likely Chad House captain to be. One fateful evening, our guidance and counselor met me in the hostel during preps. And unlike other masters, when he was supposed to flog or punish me, he asked me to see him at the GNC unit the following morning. I went, and he said, "I wouldn't flog you, and I wouldn't take your name forward. But I want to ask you one simple question. I have checked your results. In your academic progression, you seem to be very strong at 2 courses over time. You had 4, 5 credits in other places. You had 2, you had 3. But he said, Simon, if you continue at this pace, you will graduate with only 2 credits at the WAEC level." He didn't have to wait for the WAEC. The following term, I was asked to repeat the class. That reminded me of the fact that I had always desired leadership. But my perspective and perception of leadership was more on what looked on the outside than who I was building in myself. Immediately after secondary school, I joined the local youth club. The following year, I became the president. 2 years later, I was elected the zonal youth president of the YMCA. And that was where my journey began for leadership. For 26 years today, I have devoted myself in reading books almost on a daily basis. After my HND, I decided that I wanted to take a degree program. And I got enrolled in the International YMCA University in Germany. I was in my final year, first semester, when the provost who admitted me into the college had left, and we had a new provost. I took an exams. I was so confident. The next thing I saw was a complete fail on that subject. I decided to challenge it since I knew that I had done well. Immediately when I challenged it, the next thing I saw was an exmatriculation, meaning I was dismissed from the school. And I had to inquire. And the lecturer said that your work was too good for an undergraduate student, and therefore you may have cheated. And I said, sir, I'm not an undergraduate. I graduated 10 years ago. I'm taking another degree. But that decision stood. I mourned my academic qualification because it was all I wanted to prove that I was capable of a university degree. It took me 1 year, and then I took the decision of my life again. And I asked myself, what is the minimum qualification that I require to fulfill my ultimate dreams in life? Leadership. And I realized that all I needed was the capacity to think and communicate. And if I had the minimum qualification to run for any political office in my country, then I was good to go. That was in 2016. 3 years later, I decided to join politics. And that made me one of the youngest to have ever represented Kaltungo Shongom Federal Constituency in the National Assembly. But to tell the story of myself and talk about self-image without making references to others in the context of culture and cultural identity generally is to bring to us at home our very own Amina J. Mohammed, who struggled to navigate through things that could ordinarily navigate and limit her behind. First, Amina struggled with gender limitations in a traditionally conservative northern Nigeria that could limit her in terms of participation, but she weathered it. Amina navigated mixed cultural identity, having been born by a British woman in Liverpool, but that didn't define her. She took her identity. Amina also struggled with the male dominance in political space. She withered. MDG's National Director, Minister for Environment, and today she stands tall as the Deputy UN Secretary General. Most importantly, Amina stood for one thing: leadership excellence. This brings us to the table where most people think that leadership either belongs to a tribe, to a gender, or to a religion. Leadership is a spirit, and the spirit has no gender. I would like to take us away from Nigeria and talk about Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela is a renowned leader worldwide, having had the highest number of dignitaries who attended a single event in a day in the world. Nelson Mandela's tribe gave him roots. His education sharpened his tools, and his suffering deepened his character. His mindset elevated him above and beyond all the barriers and limitations that were set around him. Leadership excellence. I'm here to encourage one person who is willing to rise above his limitations, because I have risen. If all I wanted in life was political leadership, my name is counted among those who have led a constituency. And less than 24 hours ago, I was appointed National Director Planning for a national campaign for a presidential campaign. Your minority, your context, your tribe, or your religion is not a limitation to whatever you have aspired to be in life. I'd like to share this. If in Christianity, in Christ, there is no Jew or Gentile, and in Islam, there is no Arab or African, then in God, there is no Christian or Muslim. And therefore, one with God is majority. Thank you very much.